lesson number 41 and 11th lesson on the addition script that we have been creating in this series. In one of the last videos, we calculated this score automatically in the first input field, displayed that result, displayed this tick symbol, and disabled this input field. As a result, we have lost our cursor, and if I need to type in an answer here, I will have to click into it and then type in an answer, although I will get a response and the field will become disabled, but the cursor does not move into this input field as well. So two issues which we will fix in this lesson. And if I change the size of my browser, this is the code that we have written so far, JavaScript code that we have written so far. By the way, all these codes are available from this website. All these videos are available from this website, and these are the JavaScript that you can download and use for practice purposes. So I'll go back to my browser and I will change the size of my browser, and we have our code and the browser side by side so we can see what we're doing. Just to remind you, when we created one copy of this question box, we focused the cursor with the help of this line of code, but when we created multiple copies, 50 copies, this line of code did not work for us, and then we used this line of code to focus the cursor in the first input field here. However, we now have disabled this input field, as you know, so this line of code is also not working, and part of the reason is that all our input fields have a tab index value of 0, as you can see here. So if I re-enable this line of code, save it, refresh it, and press F12 to see console, you'll notice that every single input field has a tab index value of 0. Okay, so first thing that we'll have to do, we'll have to change this tab index value. So I'll change the size of the browser one more time, and I can simply use this variable to change the tab index values in here. Okay, instead of having this hard-coded value, I will simply say I, which is this variable. If I save it, refresh it, maximize the browser, you can see that every input field now has a different tab index value, and we want to move our cursor into this input field which has a tab index value of 1. So if I change the size of the browser one more time, I can use this line of code. I can simply say 1 here, and ideally that should work. However, this line of code happens to be within this for loop, and it's not gonna work for that reason. So if I save it, refresh it, we have an error. So we can cut this line of code here from here and just paste it outside the loop. And if I now save it and refresh it, we have our cursor visible in the second input field. So if I refresh it, no matter how many times I refresh it, the cursor is visible in this input field which has a tab index of 1, and that we are controlling with this line of code here. However, our second problem has not been solved. So if I type in an answer and I press enter, although I get a response, but the cursor disappears one more time instead of moving into this input field, and we can fix that as well. Out of these if conditions, I will say result, which is this input field, this variable, which is this variable, and I will say dot parent element, then next element sibling dot query selector, and then I'll target the input fields again, and I will say dot focus, I'll use focus method. And semicolon. So if I save it now, we hopefully have fixed all the issues. Okay, so if I refresh it, the cursor appears in the second input field. If I type in an answer and press enter, the cursor moves into the next input field. If I type an answer one more time, the cursor moves into the next input field. We have used nextElementSibling property, and I'll discuss all this in the next lesson. So this is it for today, and I will discuss this line of code in the next lesson. Thank you very much.